Hi, this is Arna from the TAS marketing team. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, we help marketers increase their conversion rate by 2 to 3x using conversational landing pages. And in this video series, we actually show you guys exactly how we make those conversational landing pages by recording the entire creation process. In this particular edition, we'll be taking a look at the credit card marketing process. Specifically, I have this landing page open from Citibank for their credit card, for 4 of their credit cards, which I found through a Google ad, and we're going to transform it into a conversational experience that converts at a higher rate. To begin with, we always like to start with a landing page assessment, and honestly, this landing page there's not much to say about it because it's a pretty standard credit card landing page. If you've ever applied for a credit card before, especially if you've applied for it online, you've probably seen a page like this. It's very text heavy, it's very jargon heavy, and it doesn't really convert at very high rates because people don't really respond well to pages which have this much text in them, especially when a lot of that text is acronyms and jargon. And as a marketer, you really need to package this well to convince people to go through the whole conversion process, through the whole lead generation process. Our approach to this is that we like to take the digital application process a lot closer to the in-person application process. So when you go into an actual bank branch, when you go into an actual Citi branch, you speak to one of their relationship managers and they walk you through the entire process. And we like to make the lead generation experience feel a lot more like that because in our experience, the in-person application process feels a lot more personal. It feels a lot more human. And most importantly, it feels a lot more engaging. And the end result is that people are more likely to convert. They feel like it's a safer environment to share their information and to actually finish the whole application process as opposed to dropping. And it saves banks like Citi a lot of money. In fact, a lot of our biggest clients use chatbots, use conversational landing pages in their credit card marketing campaigns. In fact, I'll leave a link in the top right to a case study where we show how one of our customers uses conversational landing pages to generate over 25% of their credit card sales in a given year. So with that, we can actually begin with our conversational landing page creation process. I'm going to jump right into the builder and start creating. The first messages that we always like to send are called the hook. The hook are a series of 3 messages that a prospect sees as soon as they land on the page. The first message is always a welcome message. It's pretty simple. It's as it sounds. You just welcome them to the site. So welcome to Citi Cards. Make the name of the company bold. And I always like to throw in a logo. And the reason we like to do that is because it adds a little bit of branding. It makes your company more recognizable, more identifiable. If you retarget them with ads once they drop, or if you try to sell them something else, they will recognize the logo, they'll recognize your branding. And that's useful in making them convert. People are more likely to convert when they're interacting with a company that they already know as opposed to one that's completely new to them. So add a welcome message. It's the first little bit of branding that people see. Also, it adds a little bit of legitimacy. When people can recognize your company, when they can see a coherent brand, they are less likely to think that your page is spam. They're more likely to think your company is legitimate, and they're more likely to share their information. The second message we usually send is a value proposition message. So we're telling them what we are going to offer them. We're telling them that they're going to find what they are looking for on the page. Usually we use the heading in the first fold. Most credit card landing pages jump right into the lead generation process. So they're asking already which credit card the prospect wants. We don't like that approach on a conversational landing page because, again, we're trying to make this feel like the in-person experience. And if you walked into an actual Citi branch and the person who was taking the information from you started asking you immediately for lead information, showed you a bunch of cards to choose from, that would be a bad customer service experience. Instead, you want to ease your prospects into the lead generation process. So first, we can say something relating to the credit cards that they're going to get. So we can say we have a wide range of credit cards to match your exact needs. pretty generic, pretty broad, but it conveys the value proposition that Citibank is offering. They're offering credit cards. Not much to that. We've just found that this is a good way of convincing people to stay on your page because they know that you are selling them what they want to buy. In a traditional landing page, there's a lot of other messaging. They can see the pictures of the credit cards. In a conversational landing page, you just have to make it extra clear that that's what is going to happen over here. If I said something like, "How can I help you?" over here, it says nothing. It has nothing to do with credit cards. It's too broad, and it might cause prospects to drop because they might think they're in the wrong place. They don't want to go through the entire process of explaining that they want a credit card and then applying for it. They want to start with the credit card buying experience immediately, which is why we always like to include a value proposition message as the second message. The third message we always like to include is the ask message. So this is where you actually get them to begin the lead generation flow. You ask them to start the conversation, and after that you can collect all the details that you want. I usually like to make it a very non-controversial question or a non-controversial ask. So by this I mean, rather than asking them for which credit card they would like immediately, or for example, if we click on one of these things, asking them for a personal detail that's there in the actual lead generation form, I usually ask them a question of sort of, you could think of it as a ceremonial question to start the actual conversation. Something like, if you have a few seconds or a few minutes, we can help you find the right credit card. Or if you have a few minutes to answer a few questions, I can help you apply for your credit card or help you navigate the process. And all they have to do is click a button in response, which is anyways easier than typing out your full name, which takes 5 or 6 taps. So with that, let's phrase our question. In this case, I'm going to portray it as though the conversational agent is helping them navigate this process. So if you have a few minutes, I can help you complete the credit card application process. And to respond, we can give them a simple button that they just have to tap to start the conversation. It reduces the friction. Begin application. I also like to throw in a quick icon. The reason I like to throw in an icon is because it offers a visual cue to the prospect, telling them what they can expect when they click on the button. It just makes it a lot easier for prospects to understand what is being asked of them and actually start the conversation. Usually my go-to in finance use cases is this clipboard with a check mark on it. It's sort of a generic icon that represents application processes, especially in the financial services space. It's my sort of default go-to icon. You guys can use it as well if you're creating your own conversational landing page. Complete the credit card application process. Let's make that bold just to emphasize that that's what they're going to expect. So this is a completed hook. Just to recap really quick, we add a welcome message with a little bit of branding as the logo to create an identifiable symbol which prospects can recognize later on, which they can apply their perceptions of the company to, and to build legitimacy. We also add a value proposition message. This is to tell them that your landing page is selling them exactly what they're looking for. So we landed on this page through a search about credit cards, and we want to tell them that they are going to find a wide range of credit cards on this landing page. Finally, once we've told them that we're selling them what they want, we've established our legitimacy, we have established an identifiable brand, we can start the conversation. So we give them an uncontroversial question which they can respond to with a button to minimize friction and get them to start the actual conversation. With that, we can move into the lead generation process. The first question that we're going to ask is obviously what credit card they want to apply for. So let's prime them for that question. Since this is the first question, we want to just get them, again, we just want to ease them into this conversation And actually, in fact, before we even do that, what we want to do is acknowledge the fact that they pressed a button. So over here, they said begin application. We don't want to start asking them questions immediately. We want to acknowledge the fact that we got their input. So we can say something like, great. To begin with, you need to choose a card. Choose which card to apply for. Here are our options with a few details about each one. Here I'm going to use the card input to accept the response because each of these credit cards has an image associated with it, and that's an easy way to differentiate them. I actually collected these images before shooting this video, and we can add those images into our user response to make it easier for prospects to understand the difference between them. So I believe the first one was the double cash credit card, so we can throw that image in there. Next was the simplicity credit card, so we can throw that one in the second card space. Now that I'm done with the logo, I can actually close it out. I believe the next one was the rewards plus card, so we can throw that in there. And of course, the AA advantage card, which we can throw in right at the end. Now, prospects have a good way to differentiate the cards from one another, a visual way to differentiate the cards with one another, which is useful because if you just bombard them with 4 text-heavy cards, it's going to be difficult for them. They're going to have to read through each one of them. And as you might know from being in the marketing space, most prospects don't have the attention span for that. So even giving them the small visual cue to differentiate the cards at a glance is a good way to help them figure out the difference between the options. So with that, we can tell them a little bit about each one. So first of all, let's give them the names of each one. So the first one is the Citi double cash card, which I think gives them 2% cash back. Quite similar to the, I guess it's Citibank's response to the Bank of America cash rewards card. Citi double cash card, the Citi Simplicity card. These are very, very creative names. I've got to hand it to Citi. They really know how to name a credit card. I don't know what's wrong with my, there we go, with my cursor. For some reason, I'm finding it hard to actually get the typing caret to show up. Come on. I have no idea why though. Maybe it's because of the image. Okay, we can maybe throw in the images immediately after. Because for some reason the images are giving me a little bit of trouble. These images in particular are giving me a little bit of trouble in typing the names of the cards out. This card has a, wow, that is a mouthful. Citi/AA Advantage Platinum Select World Elite MasterCard. I'm going to remove some of these R's and TM's just to make it look a little nicer. Wow. Okay, I think it's fairly obvious that all of these cards are Citi cards since we're on a Citi landing page. So I think we're safe enough where we can remove the Citi over here. We can also remove the R. A Advantage Platinum Select. Wow, Platinum Select and World Elite. That seems a little redundant. I mean, like, you can have World Elite or Platinum Select, but adding both of them seems to be overkill in my opinion. Now we can throw in the actual images. One of the things you learn when you're making conversational landing pages like this is the art of switching between tabs really quickly. It's required because you often find yourself switching between image tabs and switching between your traditional landing page and your what's it called? Your traditional landing page and your conversational landing page. And in the process, you get really good at navigating Chrome. All right. And they have these small descriptions over here, which we can add to the card description. I hope they have, yes, they have they have some for all of them. Oh, put that in the wrong one. There we go. 15,000 bonus points after qualifying purchases. I do not understand. Credit card companies sometimes amuse me. Not in a good way. Earn 60,000 American. That's actually pretty useful. If you travel a lot, earning 60,000 miles would be a pretty useful offer. Let's see what other information we can include. I guess the APR would be best. Okay, let's see the annual fees. I think all of them have zero annual fee except for the... Yep, all of them have a zero annual fee except for the AA Advantage card. So we can add that in as a value proposition for all of the other cards. No annual fee. Copy that over into all of the other ones which don't have an annual fee, just as a $99 annual fee. And in the footer text, we can add the actual APR. Variable APR. Wow, getting fancy over here. I really don't like how credit card landing pages have all this jargon on them, because it is not very accessible to, for example, I'm thinking about millennials like myself who don't really know anything about this. You can make a landing page and you can expect people to read it, but they're not going to understand what any of this means. Probably reduce that. Yep. APR. Oh, that was a doozy. APR. There we go. And throw in the APR over here as well. Whoa, what did I do there? There we go. Now we have this gambit complete. The prospects get to choose which credit card they have. They have a little bit of information about them. They know the APRs, they know what their annual fee is, and what the unique advantages of each card are. We can hit save and move on into the actual lead generation process. Notably, I went through this page earlier and I noticed that all of these forms are exactly the same. So we don't actually need any branching. They ask for all the exact same details in all of these forms. Yep. So we can actually turn branching off. This is going to save us time because, for example, if I don't turn branching off over here, we have 4 different sockets which we have to connect separately. And we're going to anyways connect them to the exact same next gambit, because we're going to ask the exact same questions. Rather than connecting it 4 times, all I have to do is connect it once when I turn branching off. Just one connection over there. Now we can begin with the actual application process. We close that and use the double cash reward form to build out our landing pages. As I mentioned before, I looked at this form beforehand. I did a little bit of organization. When I'm creating a lead generation experience, I usually like to look at my traditional landing page. I like to categorize all the fields into these headings in a Google Doc, and then I use that Google Doc as sort of a checklist while I'm creating my conversational landing page lead generation experience to make sure that I've hit all of the marks. So to begin with, we can ask for personal details. I usually like to ask for name first anyways in all my conversational landing pages, and the reason is because I always like to make my conversational landing page feel like a human. As I mentioned before, we want this conversational landing page to mimic the experience a prospect feels inside an actual branch. And I feel like when most human beings talk to other human beings, when they're asking for information from them, the first thing they ask for is their name, because because usually people like to know who they're talking to. But as I mentioned before we even ask this question, we want to prime them for what's to come. We want to tell them, we want to acknowledge their input. So first of all, let's acknowledge the fact that they chose a card. We can say great choice. I need a few, we can prime them for the lead generation experience starting. So we can say, let's begin we began the application process already. I need a few personal details to start off. There we go. We've told them we're starting off the process of lead generation. At the end over here, we're priming them for what we're going to ask them in the next few questions, some personal details. As you can see over here, I've organized it that way. And then we ask them for their full name and put full name verification on. Now we can ask them for the next detail. Whenever you're acknowledging user input after a full name, the way I like to do it is I like to say, nice to meet you, and then their name. Just because it's the courteous thing to do. If someone tells you their name for the first time, you probably say nice to meet you. It's good customer service. And with that, we can ask the next question. And now that I'm thinking about it, the reason I paused there for a little bit, I don't want to ask them this credit card question first, because if we're going under the logic that people ask for a name first when they're speaking to someone they don't know, we probably want to ask them their name before we ask them which credit card they're interested in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the order of these questions. I'm going to first ask them for their name, and then I'm going to ask them for their credit card. When you make a swap like this, you always want to make sure that you fix the acknowledgement question. So for example, over here, I said, great. To begin with, we need to choose which card to apply for. I don't need the great over here. What I can say instead is nice to meet you, Arnav Patel, because that's my full name. That's what I've just given them. So nice to meet you. Name. And move that to the first message. To begin with, we'll need to choose which credit card to apply for. Here are a few options. And in the full name question, we can say, instead of saying great choice, because now the credit card question is after, we can say what we were saying before. So great. First of all, introductions are in order. Introductions are in order. I'm the city virtual assistant, what's your full name? So they begin the application process. We ask them for their name because that's what feels most natural in terms of how these questions are going to flow. Once they give us their name, we can say nice to meet you and then ask them which card they're interested in going for. Now we can ask them the next question. We've already said nice to meet you and then the name, so we can say great choice. They've just told us which card they're interested in. And we can start asking them the next question. I always like to cancel out the details I've already asked for. Next one is date of birth. Great choice. Now I need a few personal details. We're just priming them for the questions to come. We've sort of separated for full name from the personal details, and the reason we've done that is we're presenting it at sort of a base level of understanding that's required to start the conversation. And now these are the actual lead generation questions. So we're presenting it as a human conversation where when you're speaking to a person in the actual branch and they ask you your name, they're not asking it to you, or they don't present it to you in a way that they need it to complete the application process. They present it to you in a way that they just want to know what your name is so that they can have a conversation with someone that they know. It's a great choice. Now I need a few personal details. What is your date of birth? We can use the date scroller. Make it only past days because obviously you cannot be born in the future and apply for a credit card in the present. You can obviously be born in the future, but you can't apply for a credit card in the present and be born in the future. That is impossible. That's impossible. Hit save. And now we can move on to the next question. In this case, US citizen and their SSN. Acknowledge their input as always. Are you a US citizen? Now over here, we can give them buttons as a response. If we give them text as a response, they can say, yes, I am a US citizen, or no, I'm not a US citizen. And we could use the conditional jump feature to sense for that. But in this case, I don't want to do that because it's easier to respond with a button than it is with text. You have to tap fewer times. So we can say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. No, I am not. Citizenship. Hit save. I don't think the next question changes after the citizenship question. We're still going to ask them their SSN, so we can turn branching off. Hit save. And now we can ask them for their social. It. It was their social next, right? Yep, it was. I'm actually going to save the social security number all the way till the end. And the reason I'm going to do that is because people don't generally like sharing their social security number. And the more invested we can get them in the conversation, the more likely they're going to be to share it. So if we get them to submit all of these details first, they're going to feel like they've already gotten so deep in the conversation and they don't want to end it when they see the social security question, so they might share it this time. Whereas if you ask for it right at the beginning, they're like, I haven't shared any other information really. I've just told them my date of birth and whether I'm a citizen or not. I can drop right now and I don't have to share my social, and I can procrastinate and not apply for a credit card right now. So I'm going to move social security all the way to the very end, and we can move on to the next couple of questions. In this case, actually, I created this part of the lead generation flow earlier just to save on time. So I collected everything all the way up to phone number. Just because you guys have better things to do, I have better things to do. You don't want to watch this video for a few hours in your day. So I collected all of this information. A couple of points to note: just remember to add the acknowledgement, like I mentioned earlier. So for example, over here, I say thanks. Now I need a few details about your finances. First, what's your total income? So I've acknowledged their input. I've primed them for the next segment of the conversational experience of the lead generation process. And then I ask them the next question. Similarly, once they tell me their income, I again acknowledge their input. Got it. Do you rent or own your home? Other than that, as I was saying with the social security question as well, email, phone number, address, those are also very personal pieces of information. Those are pieces of information you can use to identify people. You can use it to target them. You can use it to spam them if you're being irresponsible. And people don't like sharing it right at the beginning. So move that all the way to the end so that people are more likely to convert. Once they reach over here, they're going to feel more invested in the conversation because they've already shared so much. So they're more likely to share these details at the very end than they are if you put them right at the very beginning. So with that, now we can actually ask for the SSN. So we can move the social security question down here and say, what was the previous question we asked them? We asked them for their phone number. So we can say, great. I'm actually going to, should we ask this existing account question? I feel like it's an extra unnecessary step. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe Citibank actually needs that information. Yeah, we'll ask it. If they have it in their lead generation form, we can ask it. Because they do have a section over here asking whether they are an existing Citi customer and what account they have. So let's ask that question first, actually. Existing. Great. We are almost done. Almost done. Just 2 more details. First, are you an existing Citi customer? Or actually, we want to know what account they have already. So we could phrase it in a way that they can respond with one of these options over here. So we can say, do you have an existing Citi account? And we can say, money market, checking, and savings. If they don't have an existing Citi account, what we can do is we can make this an optional input. So that'll give them a pass button. If they don't have an existing account, all they have to do is hit pass and it moves them on to the next question. We're not going to add branching because we're going to ask them social security next regardless. Acknowledge their input, so we can say thank you. Last detail. What is your social security number? And a number keyboard because social securities are always the numbers. Hit save. And now we can close out the conversation. I believe we have asked them everything that we need. Yep, we finished the whole lead generation process. We can close out our conversation, fix the branding, and we are good to go. So, well, I don't know if you guys can hear that in the video, but there is an extremely loud plane or helicopter overhead. Let's close out this conversation. Thanks for your patience. I have submitted your application for you. Expect an email or a phone call from us in the coming week. Have a great day. And we can end the conversation over there. Did we say that? Yep, I don't want to keep repeating the word thanks, so let's just say last detail, what's your social security number, and then thanks. Now we have an entire lead generation process ready to capture leads. The only thing we need to do is make this look the part. Right now, it's looking particularly generic, as I mentioned earlier about the branding and having an identifiable brand. Right now, this chat interface looks like it is iMessage or Facebook Messenger. It doesn't really look like a city chat interface. And if we fix the branding, we can add to that same identifiable vibe that we were going for with the logo in the hook. We need to choose which credit card to apply for, simplicity, double cash rewards. I don't really travel very much, so maybe I won't go for the last one. Actually, maybe I travel a couple of times a year, but I don't think I've used 60,000 miles. Let's just go with double cash. Great choice. I need a few personal details. Great. So now we have a fully functional conversational landing page that can capture and qualify leads for a credit card application process. All we need to do is make it look the part. My way of doing this is I go to a traditional landing page. I go to the traditional landing page. I look at the colors being used and I use those colors. So in this case, I'm going to use the primary color of the brand. So in this case, it's this dark blue over here as the bot message bubble colors, and the secondary message bubble, secondary brand colors. So in this case, this green in the CTA, I use that as the user message bubble colors. And it sort of makes sense because a user clicks on a CTA in a traditional landing page, and similarly, a user clicks on their message bubbles in a conversational landing page. So we want them to match. So with that, let's jump over here. I have a handy color chooser tool. We've copied the dark blue. Move back in here, move into the design section. Go to the user message bubble option, select the blue. Move back in here, select the green of the CTA. That's copied to the clipboard. Move back into the design section, select bot messages, make it green. I'm also one of those people who likes to make the background around the chat area white as well, because it just makes it feel like the chat area is an extension of the rest of the page when you're on desktop, as opposed to it being distinct from the rest of it when it's this dark gray over here. Once we hit save, I don't want to hit deploy yet, because another thing I want to change, other than the way it looks, if you look at the URL over here, it says chatbot.hellotars.com. It says nothing about city, which again gets to that generic vibe that we're trying to avoid. So we can change it to city.hellotars.com. Hit save, deploy, open it up in a new page. There we go. We have a fully functional conversational landing page that captures and qualifies leads, and it looks the part. I can do a quick comparison of them. Over here, if I wanted to go through the lead generation process, hit apply now, it would drop me into an ugly looking form. The entire experience is very unengaging. This load time is a killer. And the end result is that people aren't going to convert because they see this form and their first instinct is going to be, I'm going to do this later. I'm going to close out of this. I'll go scroll through Instagram or Facebook right now. Whereas when they land on a conversational landing page like this, they're they feel a lot more like they're actually in the branch. There's less scope for them dropping. It feels a lot more engaging. It's an actual conversation, a back and forth interaction between the prospect and the company. So it feels more personal, feels more engaging, and the end result is a higher conversion rate. If you're running Google Ads, like City is, just to remind you guys, I found this page through a Google ad. This is going to save you money because a lot fewer of your or fewer of the people who actually land on your page are going to drop because the experience is more engaging and your conversion rate is higher. So now with the exact same ad spend, you're going to generate 2 or 3 times this number of leads that you were before. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I think it went on a little longer than I was hoping, but you guys get the idea, and you guys can copy any of the best practices that I included in this video. If you want a conversational landing page built for yourself by one of us, in fact, I might be the one who's creating it, or one of my team members might, jump into the builder, sign up for it first of all, jump onto intercom in the bottom right and send us a link to your landing page, and we'll be more than happy to create the conversational landing page for you. We even record the entire process like I did over here so that you can see what goes into making it. Thank you.